Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is going to be a bit of a different video. I've never tried even doing this. It's going to be my year in review. See, as I said before, I've never done this before. I've never even tried to do this before. It's going to be a lot of editing for me, which I'm going to do, obviously, because you're watching this right now, so you know I've done it. I've had this idea for a few months now, but I've put it off because it was going to be a lot of work. I've got nothing else to do, so why not start it now, near the end of November. Let's do this. So this will start December 31st. Me and a couple of my friends were in a pub in London. That's how all good stories start. For the size of the pub, it was a really nice place. I believe it was called Goldfinch. If you're in the Streatham area, I'd definitely check it out because lovely. So while we were there, we obviously did the countdown, which, you know, New Year's, everyone does it. You'll see that now.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
That leads us on into January 1st. The first of 365 days of 2020. What a shitstorm it's going to be. For the 1st of January I didn't really do much. I'm in London. What else am I going to do? Then go to a museum. So I went to the Imperial War Museum. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. It's, you know, it's about war, so I'm not going to like, oh, such a great time I spent there, but it was quite interesting. They had an exhibition on Auschwitz, which was quite interesting. They had some debris from 9/11, which I wasn't expecting to see. They had several tanks. They were quite cool. I like tanks. Now I'm going to stop rambling because we've got a lot more to go through. January 2nd, I got bored, so I went to the Durant's Hotel because that's my surname. It's my hotel. I wish. As soon as I got there, no parades, nothing. Didn't even know who I was. Quite disappointed. 1 star. Afterwards, feeling quite depressed, I went over to my first Wetherspoons of the year, being the Barrel Vault in St Pancras, I believe. That was actually quite a nice one. Seeing as I'm trying to take off all of them, it was good to get my first one ticked off on the 2nd day of the year. January the 3rd, I got bored again, went out for a test train in Chiswick, pair of 73s. Then I realised that the Doctor Who store was a thing, and then travelled all the way from Chiswick to Barking with half an hour before it closed, so that was quite good, and got myself a sonic screwdriver. You've seen it before in previous videos, but I'll insert a clip of me getting it. I wish I got a picture of the person who, you know, was on the till up time, because it was the bloody master, and I was geeking out because the master gave me my receipt. Like, Doctor Who store, if you're a Doctor Who fan, bloody go. They have 2 TARDISes and a Dalek, like, epic, lovely. Also on my way home I got a Southern first class headrest. Here it is. Southern, if you want it back, then just let me know, I'll give it back. January 4th, I got notified that there was a pair of 37s on a test train, so I went out for it. Very unprepared, because my phone died within like half an hour of leaving Streatham. I ended up having to go to a Pizza Express. Didn't see Prince Andrew, unfortunately, or actually maybe fortunately. Charged my phone up there, and then had to bail and rush back to Clapham Junction because the light was getting terrible. But yeah, I'll insert a clip of the 37s going through Clapham Junction now. So January 5th I headed back up to Morton. The only reason I was in London because I was with friends at the time, and then they went up to family, so I joined them because it's closer to where I live, so it's easy for me to get home. So we went up to Morton in Marsh, it's a lovely place. It was the day of the second episode of Series 12 of Doctor Who, so we watched that. Bit disappointing because Series 12 was, or ish, I won't get into it. It was a letdown for me, personally. January 6th, partying's over. What's there to do apart from go home and continue living your mundane life? So that's what I did. Left Morton in Marsh, had a very nice farewell wave to everyone, then got the train and quite a nice IET up to Worcester Foregate Street, switched over to a 170 to Birmingham, to then get a 158 to, I think, London Junction, and then bus home, I think. Might be wrong, I don't remember, this was nearly a year ago now, but it was a good journey apart from Birmingham where they changed my train at the last second and made me run up the stairs, through 2 sets of ticket barriers, down the stairs on the other side, and nearly missed the train, but it's fine. That's Birmingham New Street for you. January 18th, I don't have enough fingers to, January 18th. That was 17th, wasn't it? 18th. Yeah, numbers. Strong point. Today was the DOS Class 20 farewell tour. I wasn't sure if I got up for it, but in the end I was like, screw it, it's the farewell tour. So I went all the way up to York. While on the train, I saw that the ASDF filter was a thing on Instagram. I did that. You wouldn't guess which ASDF character I got. I like trains. When we got to York, I met up with a friend, James. Quite good. We got the 57s coming in, 20s going on the tour, and then I buggered off to a random station in between Harrogate and Leeds. Hornbeam Park. I had to remember that because it was dead, there was no one there. I got the 20s going through. I waited about 10 minutes and followed suit to Leeds, where my Northern train was late and I missed the 20s depart. Thank you, Northern. So then I went up to York, went to the NRM, saw the rocket. That was quite cool. Second time seeing it, but it's still always impressive to see. Then I headed down to Sheffield to then catch the 20s again. The 20s would then go to Derby and then Crewe, so that I had to race them via Manchester, which I did. I made it to Crewe within 10 minutes of them arriving, so that was brilliant. Got them in Crewe as well. Got them going off to the depot, and then 68 coming on and leaving, which was, it was very loud. Then I went home and slept because it was a long bloody day. I started at like 4 and got home at like 11. Long day. January 19. I was tired of using my spreadsheet to track down my rail miles, so I got rail miles. So then for the next few days, probably, I can't remember how long exactly, I had to go through from 2013 to 2020, logging all my haulage on rail miles. Yeah, it's fun, but it took its bloody time. January 27, so 10, 27, yeah, numbers again. I didn't do much apart from watch the Royal Rumble. I was crying, Ed returned. That was just emotional because Edge, I watched it all growing up, and when he retired due to his neck issues was emotional because he's only young, and then 9-10 years later he returns. Whoa, yes, And then afterwards, McIntyre eliminating Brock. Like, yes. Which would only foreshadow what was to come at WrestleMania. Very nice, again. And then January 28th was the start of the Mark IV testing on the Northwest Coast, which was quite nice. We had a set go down to Holyhead, then into Llandudno, and then back up to Crewe, which was very nice. Wow, I need to think of something new. Very nice. One thing I regret is that I didn't film it coming into Llandudno, because that was weird, because that's meant to be on the card of Holyhead service, not into Llandudno. But yeah, it was quite a good day, and that concludes January. I might look a bit different for February, because I'm not doing all of it in one sitting, because geez, will that take ages. Moving on to February. February 1st, we had our first Steam World Tour, being 45231. That headed down to Holyhead, so I actually made an effort and tried to get it going past Colwyn Bay, which, because it was running like 15 minutes early, I missed. Great. So I rushed back down to Junction to get a picture, which I got because it had like an hour wait. Then I got the next train down to Holyhead to get it arriving. That all went to plan. Great. Holyhead had a Mark III set, a Mark IV set, and then the tour, so Holyhead actually pulled through. The main problem was there was a points failure later in the day, so the steamer couldn't turn around to do the return tour, resulting in my train leaving 80 minutes late. I got to Junction, waited for the return, expecting a steamer. Wasn't there. Meant to stop. Didn't happen. 47 went straight through. Didn't have time for a picture. Film was naff. Didn't upload it. If I still have it, I'll insert it now, but... So, because I saw the steamer wasn't on the tour, I realised that an STP was going to happen, which I then had to wait for, which was like an hour afterwards. So I got the steamer going through a light engine at Colwyn Bay. February 4th, I got bored, as I do most days, and decided, why not put all my information into a website to find out when I'm going to die. 2074, supposedly. It's another 50 years, so that's not too bad. February 6th, I went shopping. I got halfway around the shop and realised I'd forgotten my card, so I had to ask the staff, please can you look after my trolley while I run home? Thankfully they did, and that was that. I got my card, paid, went home again. February 9th, we were in the midst of another storm. I believe it was Storm Kira. Like, Llanrwst was completely flooded. If you needed to use the train station, you needed to get a boat. The worst thing which happened here was the sign fell off Spa, and that was about it. February the 11th, big accomplishment in my adult life. I bought a spatula. It's my first spatula of being an adult, so it's quite emotional, so I thought I would remember this day. February 12th, my first day ranger. Yeah, first one, South Pennines Day Ranger. I met up with my mate James. Initially I got the Mark III set down to Manchester. Where I caught my first pacer to Newmill Central, then a 150 back to Piccadilly, then walked up to Victoria and met my mate. He was sat in first class. I don't have first class tickets, I only had the Day Ranger, so I blagged it. God didn't seem to bother, so I got first class to Leeds, I think, Leeds or Sheffield. But that day it was just mainly just bouncing between Manchester, Leeds and Sheffield, until we ended up in Leeds at the same time as a cross-country HST was going up north. So we got that to York, met another friend, had a Wetherspoons, then caught an IET all the way down to Newton and Willows where we went home. February 14th, the day of romance. also known as Valentine's Day. It was such a romantic day for me, because I started working, first day of work that was. It was the Rochester Gin Festival, which I was working, so I had to wake up early, get the Mark III set to Manchester. Then a 195 up to Rochdale, where I had to walk to the cathedral, I think, Town Hall Cathedral, I can't remember, it was a nice big churchy thing, and help set up the event. Then at the end of the day, me and a work colleague, who's also a friend, went to the hotel and chilled. February 15th. This is the actual Rochdale Gin Festival. We had two events, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So we drove down to the actual event and did it. I don't know if I've got any footage of the actual event because I would have been working, but if I've got some of before and after, I'll insert it now. February 16th, that was home time. We've done the event, we cleared up the night before, we got back to the hotel, and once we woke up to the fire alarm, which was thankfully a false alarm, we got outside ready to go to the car, but we had a flat bloody tyre.
I just want to go home.
Instead of calling the RAC or AA or Green Flag or whoever, we ended up doing it ourselves, so that was quite impressive. The tyre went from this to this, and we did it ourselves, never done it before, first time, so we aced it. So then he drove me all the way up to Preston, dropped me off where I got the train back down home. Via crewmate I had where I got the Northern Bell. 57,601 had failed, and 37,516 just randomly turned up, so I got that leaving crew. Heading down to Chester, which I then followed and got a picture again while on the train because we were in adjacent platforms, which was quite cool. Quite weird seeing a 37 on the Northern Bell. February 21. So I'd had a week off, and now we're back to another gin festival, this time Manchester. I was meant to be staying with the same mate in another hotel somewhere, which then caped, and I got told finally I was staying in the boss's kitchen, so no spa or swimming pool for me, but at least I have a fridge and an oven and a bed. That's all that matters in the end. I'll get that spa day one day. So during the event we had this artist doing music just to keep, the guests entertained, I guess. They were doing a Instagram picture for their story, and I photobombed it by accidentally. I was filling up water jugs, and you can just see me in the background. I'm quite good at photobombing without realising that I'm photobombing. February 23rd was the home time from this event, so I walked over to the nearest station, being Maldith Road, took a train into Manchester Airport, then got a train to Wilmslow, then to Crewe, saw 56091, then went home. February 26th was probably one of my most upsetting days, but also one of my favourite days, because it was the day that TPE announced their £1 sale, so I booked several trips. I booked a Scarborough trip for £2, Edinburgh trip for £2, Glasgow trip for £2, another Edinburgh trip for £2, Newcastle for £2, 2, 4, 6, 8, £10, and I got to go all to those destinations. I'll let you know what happened further on in this video. So moving on to March. March the 1st saw the end of Northern by Weaver. It was pretty much a meh moment for me because meh. Who's next? Northern. Okay, great. It was also Doctor Who Series 12 finale. Gonna TLDR. Time is Children bad. Cyber Time Lords good. March the 2nd was my East Midlands Day Ranger with my friend John. We drove down to Nottingham and just bashed HSTs up and down the Midland Main Line before we got a 158 down to Peterborough. While on that, there was a problem outside Grantham which turned out to be a tree on the line, so we arrived into Peterborough 20 minutes late before catching a 170 over to Leicester, I believe. Once we got back into Leicester, we arrived at the same time as a HST, so we bloody ran, and I thought that would be my last VP 185 HST, but foreshadowing once again, it wasn't, but me at the time thought it was. March 9th was the Elimination Chamber. I can't really remember much from this pay-per-view. I think it was alright, but again I can't remember. March 13th. It was the Sheffield Gin Festival today. I had to wake up early again, so I got the Mark III set down to Manchester, Piccadilly. Quarter 185 to Doncaster. I originally planned to get it to Sheffield, but I arrived at the event 3 hours early, so I was like, screw it, I'll stay on till Doncaster. I ended up seeing the Flying Scotswoman. I think it was International Women's Day, which is why I was like, oh great, I saw Flying Scotswoman, because I wanted to see it, because it had been announced like a couple of days before that it re-vinyled the DVD sales. And then once I was done with Doncaster, I went back to Sheffield and went to the town hall to start working. Great. We then set the event up. This was pre-COVID. Well, we knew about COVID, but it wasn't locked down just yet. We had a few people come up being like, is the event still on? And we're like, yeah, it's still on. March 14th, I decided to wake up early and make an effort to go see what's happening on the railways. I'm rarely in Sheffield at 5:30 in the morning, so I walked down to this random location I'd found on Google Maps the day before, and it turned out to be the former railway station of Brightside. So it was quite nice. The platforms were still there. The spot I'd found was the old entranceway onto the station, but it was closed off. I still got a nice shot looking down onto the station from where I was, and I got HSTs go past, a couple 195s, a couple paces, the usual stuff for Sheffield, so that was quite good. Once I was done, I went back to the hotel and met up with everyone, had breakfast, then went to the venue to do 2 events. This time I was actually managing some people. I had my little group afterwards, which was quite nice. Weird, but nice. We just went back to the hotel to sleep because it had been a long day. I think we got back at like midnight just because we had to pack the event away as well. March 15th, home time again. I got a lift down to Sheffield station, got a picture of all the paces because on a Sunday, Sheffield is just a dumping ground for units, so there was loads of paces. I then walked over to the bus station because that's where my rail replacement was. Yes, I am not taking a train because they were cancelled. Cheers, Northern. So the rail replacement dropped me off in a random place called Chinley. I mean, that's another station ticked. Yes, I can tick backwards. I then saw that there were 2 paths for West Coast moves around the Todmorden area. I think it's Todmorden, it might be Todmorden. I don't know, I say Todmorden. So once I got back into Manchester, I walked over to Victoria where I got tickets to go over to Todmorden, and I got the pair of 158s all the way down. Once in Todmorden, I tested out a couple spots before making my decision where to get the tour and the ECS. I found a nice footbridge and a nice road bridge within like 5-minute walk of each other. I decided to stay on the road bridge because it was better for the direction that the things were coming in. We had 3 47s and a 37, which was quite nice. You'll have pictures now. Quite pleased. I'm glad I went down there. But then I realised that there was an hour until my next train. Thus I went to the Wetherspoons. I believe it was called White Hart. I think so, yeah. That was good. I had the gin and then caught my train back to Manchester. Then went home because I was tired. March 18th was the start of my Doctor Who marathon. I usually do it every year, but I had missed a couple, so I started again this year. I started 2005 Series 1 and then worked my way up to Series 12 as of now. March 24th, lockdown happened. The first lockdown of the UK. Can't really say much, didn't do anything because lockdown, didn't go out, didn't do anything, didn't see anyone. Sat in bed all day. March 26th was my booked Scarborough trip, which is now cancelled because lockdown was 2 days before. Great timing me. If I booked that Scarborough trip a week earlier, that would have been fine. But because I booked at the time, we were 2 days into lockdown and I was so bummed. March 30th saw the end of my Doctor Who marathon. It took me 11 days, 12 hours and 55 minutes to go from Series 1 to Series 12. I found out that you can roughly do a series a day because it's like 10 to 12 episodes, just under an hour long. So that gives you nice little breaks in between and then you can clear a series a day. But that was quite fun. I'll probably do it again next year, but will we have Series 13? I don't know. That might be 2022. Who knows? And that's the end of March. I'll see you in April. April 4th, I had bought some bedding off Amazon, and because I needed to get to the £20 mark, I ended up buying a Dalek. Here is said Dalek. I'm not sure if it's in focus. It's the Recon Dalek from a few years ago now. April 5th, WrestleMania Day 1. I'm so pleased they did 2 days of WrestleMania because 9 hours in one sitting is hell. Especially when you're from the UK and it starts at midnight, because that would be midnight through to 9 AM, and I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to name one match from each night which I enjoyed. Night 1 was AJ versus Taker. That was lovely, the Boneyard match. I really enjoyed that. Taker looked great, even if it was shot over many hours, and it was a cinematic match, but by God, Undertaker was good. That was a good match. Glad he won. April 6th, WrestleMania Day 2. What was the match of the night here? Drew versus Brock. Drew fucking won. Drew won. I was so pleased. I popped. It was great. It was great. April 8th. It was that point in lockdown where we had nothing to do. So we all hopped on Roblox for some reason. I believe Stepford County Railway. And just pissed around on there for a bit. I'm not asked if I get banned if people see this. I'm not asked because I don't play anymore. That was only a lockdown boredom thing. April 10th, I passed my dispatch test on there. So I worked my way up a couple driver positions and then finally got to QD. Couldn't be asked getting to Signal or anything more or anything like that because effort. I just wanted to do the easy stuff. And that was when I was interested in Stepford County Railway. April 15th, my Glasgow trip got cancelled. It's just one by one, just cancelling, just upsetting, but c'est la vie. April 21, Cultaholic were doing a lot of streams, like a lot. So I joined in on a Spyro stream with Atom Pacitti and ended up pissing them off. I think it was all good humour, but I'll insert the clips now.
I thought you said destroy one on green. You seem to be hitting them on red. Isn't Mallard funny, guys? Let's get a big hearty fucking laugh for Mallard. Alright, Mallard, you fucking cretin. I don't need your fucking input. You're banned. Sydney, can you ban that person forever, please?
April 27th, I took my only picture of the entire month. For me, I take a couple thousand a month, potentially. But April I took one. Just one. Then April 29th, my Edinburgh trip was cancelled. Lovely. And another one bites the dust. Which leads us on to May. May 6th, my Newcastle trip was cancelled. Every year I plan on going to Scotland, and then something always happens. I had several chances this year, but none of them happened. Down to Scotland 2021, maybe. March 8th, I went for a walk. I felt like I should add that into my list because going for a walk was a major thing at the time. I only went down to the golf club and got a couple trains going past. And then went home. But that was my major outing of the month. May 10, it was the first week of engineering works on the North West Coast because there was barely any services. Everywhere else was like, let's do engineering works. I believe the service pattern was only Holyhead to Crewe via Llandudno and Crewe Holyhead via Llandudno every 2 hours. So they just caped all of them and had engineering works going on in Junction. I'll insert a couple clips then. May 13, my Edinburgh trip was cancelled. Again, my second Edinburgh trip for that. Nice. May 15th was the end of the Mark III set on the North Wales coast, unfortunately. I wanted to go on them, but COVID, lockdown. I don't even think they were running. Yeah, they weren't even. If I remember correctly, they weren't even running at the time, so it would have been impossible to get it. So, fair enough. But I got them last back in February, when I was going up to Manchester nearly every week. That was odd for me. May 17th was the second week of engineering works, and because I wasn't allowed to take public transport, I ended up walking to Colwyn Bay via Junction. I believe it was like a 16-mile walk. All for sheds and 70s. I think there was a 56 this week though, so it was alright. But it started off with me walking from home to Junction, getting a couple shots there, then walking over to Colwyn Bay. The only reason why I did that was as soon as I got to Junction, a 66 and 70 were just heading off to Colwyn Bay, and because they were in possession they could only go about 5 to 10 miles per hour. So I walked to Colwyn Bay and beat them. I then got several shots, one at Mockra, one at West End, and then that led me to Colwyn Bay where there was another shed, so I got that. Insert pictures along the way. May 21st, we normally get the NMT down once every month, but this time it was pair skips, which was nice. We don't get the skips often. June now. June the 2nd. I finally got my 1 Pro A+. I ordered it a couple weeks earlier and it finally arrived. One problem? Dead pixels. I'll tell you my story of 3. So a day later I ported it to a man who said, turn it on and off again. Software won't fix hardware. So I did it, but knew it wouldn't work. To then which I was hung up on several times, just ignored. Skip several weeks of me trying. We get to a couple of weeks before I was meant to pay my first month, and I get told, we'll hand you over to the complaints department. They can help you. I get there, and he's like, if you want a replacement, we can't give you a new phone, but if you cancel your contract, you can order a new phone. New phones are only for new customers. I am a new customer, I've not been with you for a month. I give you a damaged phone, you give me a new phone. If I order a phone, I order a new phone, not a damaged phone. So if you're giving me a damaged phone, just trade it. If you've got new phones, then just... Simple. Nice and simple. No, it didn't happen. He cancelled my contract, so while I was in the call, it just cut off. My number was completely gone, so I had to get a new number, change everything. Just terrible customer service. Completely lost my number, which was so annoying. I had that number for 7 years and now I have to remember a new number. Twats. June 3rd. That was a good day. That saw the return of the flask working. Two things coincided. A 37 needed running and the path needed activating. So we saw a pair of 37s head down the valley. First nuclear flask of the year. Great. And it was a pair of 37s, which had not happened in 2 years. So I bloody walked there twice, walked the junction twice, got it in the morning. Got it in the afternoon. Because that is rare now. Used to happen twice a week. Now it happens potentially never again. June 5th I broke my headphones. There was Sony's nice overhead headphones, but something's come loose, so only one ear will play, and it really annoyed me. So they're dead now. I've had the same pair, not the exact same, I've had 2 sets of the same pair for over 4 years now, and it's finally come to an end. So I've continuously been buying new headphones because I've continuously been breaking them because they're so poor, because I buy cheap shit. But my headphones broke. June 17th, 37219, headed into London now. At the time I was staying with my uncle, so I was like, please can you take me out? So I ended up getting it passing the gangway while it was going into London now, and then from the golf course when it was going back. And then because I had to turn around at junction, I was like, please can we just rush to Conway? And then I got it through there as well, and that was me done. I went home, but got some good shots. June 20th. So about a week prior, I ordered the Samsung S20 Ultra 5G. So at the time I had this and a One Pro 8 Plus. Yes, hello. Which was quite weird. I felt like a reviewer having 2 flagship phones. I had to take pictures, I just had to because that's me. I'll probably never have 2 flagship phones again. But this one's with EE. Literally called them up, half an hour later, everything was set up, everything was fine. Brilliant customer service. Switching up into July, June 19th, I went out with a couple of mates, Loki and James to be exact. We all met up in Chester, then drove over to Acton Bridge to realise there was nothing, to which we drove over to Warrington Bank Quay, got a train to Newton or Willows, then got a Merseyville day drover or something like that, and headed off into Liverpool behind a 68. We then got a 397 to a St Helens station, I forgot which, before we returned back to Liverpool. Went over to my hand doing? Went over to Liverpool South Parkway, caught the Merseyrail over to Hunt's Cross, caught the same train back over to Liverpool Central. I ended up getting my Pep plushie. It's a Pep. Couldn't say no. Limited edition, class 507, 508 train soft toy. 15 quid, not bad, not bad. Pep. Once that was over, we started heading back to Warrington to head over to Helsby, where I caught my train. But we arrived a bit early, so we went up Helsby Hill, had a look at the view, which was quite nice. It was dark, but lights. It was nice. And then I caught a 158 back to Junction, where I think I had to walk, or I had a bus ticket, I don't remember. July 24th was kind of a mega day. The past few months I hadn't been checking real-time trains, but today I just popped on Facebook, saw 57.312 was down, didn't know why, saw the return path was in half an hour, and again asked my uncle, get me to the railway station, please. Then I remembered that I didn't want to go on the station because COVID, staff, don't want to bother them. So I went over to a footbridge in West End where I had to wait because someone signalling had messed it up, so they pathed the 175 in the wrong path for some reason, so there's me excited about, ooh, it's coming early, run, for a 175 to show up, which was actually pathed on the wrong path, but that was nice. So basically what happened was the 67 on the Mark IV set, which was in Holyhead, had failed. It was either that or the DVT. It was something about it just been sat in siding for months, that they needed to hire out a loco to come and drag it back to crew. But I'm glad I got it. That was definitely a move of the year. I didn't film it because I was in a rush, but nice. July 25th was another meetup, this time with Hassan and John. We ended up just driving everywhere, so we drove down to Norton Bridge. That was quite nice. There was a field which had a good vantage point on the railway. Hassan got his drone out and tried to kill me. Well, not literally, but a few close calls. That was quite fun. We then got a few freight and buggered off to Acton Bridge of all places. En route we saw a nice footbridge, which I saved on Google Maps for later, in a random location called Stableford. So once we got to Acton Bridge, second week of nothing, we got Pendos, the Zeros, that was about it. We got a 323, which was interesting. But because there wasn't really much going on, we headed back down to Stableford and caught a few Pendos as well. There really wasn't much of a freight day. We'd seen 66731, which was the Thank You NHS / Captain Tom Moore shed, which was quite interesting and nice. It wasn't really about the freight, it was about Pendos, to be honest, for some reason. But I enjoyed it. It was a good day. Moving on to August 1st. On this day I decided to head down to the Woolwich Railway. I think I was invited by a friend. I used to volunteer there, and so I say because I'm a friend of the railway I can just go on for free. But my friend David invited me down, so I took the train down to Rill, walked over, met up with him. He had ordered a Domino's because he was driving all day and didn't really have much time for food, so I got 2 slices of pizza for free and a free ride around Marine Lake. Great. We then got my mate John to come down, and we just hung for a bit until me and John buggered off to the arcades. We ended up doing some air hockey, bowling, and then go on the go-karts, which he spammed me out, but I still won. The weird thing was, we had just come out of a lockdown and nobody was wearing masks. Like, me, John were, but then basically no one else was, and we'd just come out of lockdown. Again, foreshadowing another lockdown. Around 6 PM we then met up back with David and Ryan from the railway and went to the pub and just had a pint, just chilled, before we went back to the railway and ordered more Domino's because we hadn't really eaten. Well, David had, but we hadn't. Then, when it was in the evening, we all went our separate ways. David and I went to the station. John went home, Ryan went home. David saw me off while I was getting my 175 back home. April 4th? There's a reason why I need to check my Flickr mail sometimes. The main reason being people wanting to use my images in magazines, websites, adverts, etc. The Days of Recreation Society had emailed me asking to use a picture of 58022 that I'd taken many years before, because they currently own it and were planning to upgrade it into LMS 10,000. They wanted to use it in a newsletter update, and obviously I said yes. I'm not asked if I'm going to get paid at this current point in time. If you need a picture for an advert, let me know. My number's not available, but still. August 7th. Colwyn Bay Railway Station used to have two entrances. The entrance from the road and then the entrance from the promenade. The entrance from the promenade was closed in the 60s, 70s era, so it was well before my lifetime. But for some reason people keep breaking in, so 2 years ago, 2018 I think, someone had cut the bolt off it and just opened it. It's blocked on the other side, so you're not going to go onto the railway. It's literally just a tunnel and stairs going up. And it was open for a couple of days. I was very gutted because I've always wanted to see what's inside of it. But I've just always wanted to go into the little tunnel and up the stairs. My uncle was taking me back home and we happened to drive along the prom. I looked up. The gate was hanging off. I was like, please can you stop? So then I got out, quickly ran up, had a quick look inside, got a couple pictures and then left. But it was quite interesting because it still had all the fire exit signs. It had writing on, I don't know how long that's been there. It had like a little fire pit, like someone had been sleeping in there, but it's been closed for 50 plus years. About half an hour later I told my uncle, just leave, I'll get my own way home, because I heard there was a 97 light engine on the way down. So I ran to the station, the open entrance, not the promenade entrance that I was already in, and got a train to Junction, got the 97 there. Waited for it to return, and I went. It's a view I don't usually do. It's atop Old Colwyn. It's quite a nice view looking down onto the railway. You see all the promenade of Colwyn Bay, Townland, etc. So I got it coming down there, sneaking past. Somehow the driver saw me, gave a nice little toot of the horn. August 8th, I finally did 8 correctly. My auntie wanted to go for a walk around Bettersecoid, so my uncle and I tagged along because that's what you do. It's quite a nice walk. I love Bettersecoid. It's a lovely place when it's not raining. Seeing goes around the start of August. Lovely weather. You just went there. Face mask is obvious now. Just so many tourists. Another foreshadow of why North Wales got screwed over. Thanks, tourists. Tourists everywhere in the River Llugwy, I believe. It was a lovely place. You have 3 levels of walking. So you have green, which was like, oh, this is a 15-minute walk. You had blue, which was like, this is a half an hour walk. And then red was like, this is several hours. So we went on a 15-minute walk and just went around. August 10th, we had some amazing lightning. We rarely get lightning over here. I don't think it's happened for many years now. But just this one night, I had to wake people up just to show them. It was all over the seafront. My shots weren't great because I'm not the best at night photography, especially like stars and moons and galaxies and lightning. But I think I got a couple. I mainly did filming of it. stayed it for half an hour and then went to bed. August 13th, the Flask returned again. Again, it wasn't actually the Flask, it was just an empty F&A wagon with a pair of 68s. I missed it in the morning because I don't check for the Flask path anymore, because it hasn't ran, well, it's only run twice this year. I saw some gen on Facebook that it had ran, so I got the return. August 15th, a couple days before, I had mentioned how I just had a random feeling that I just wanted to go for a swim, but not in like a swimming pool. I wanted to go in the lake, which was weird. I've not really done lake swimming much, but just a random craving. Like, sometimes I crave chocolate, sometimes I crave swimming in a lake. You choose. So my auntie and uncle took me down to Bala Lake. Got a couple pictures of me in the lake. It's very cold. It's a very warm day, but the water was very cold, so it took me a few seconds to acclimatise. I nearly said I did a couple laps, but I did a couple lengths of like a really short area. If I did a couple laps, I'd be bloody dead. It's a big lake. Once I had dried off and changed again, we ended up just driving over to Llangollen because it's a nice place. They like it there. There's a railway for me, so it's all good. We arrived just as a steam train was departing. I think we had like 5 minutes, so I ran from the car park to the footbridge just outside the station. The problem is, when we got there, obviously you have to pay, but the ticket machines weren't working. There were 2 ticket machines in the car park, neither of them were working. Turns out you had to download an app on your phone to pay. Imagine you've got elderly people who don't know how to do that, don't have a smartphone. How are they going to bloody pay? At least have one ticket machine working. But as I said, I got the steam train leaving. Sounded lovely. Don't know who was driving, but it was lovely. I asked quickly if I could have a quick look in the yard, only because I saw the 31, which was, I believe it is on short-term hire. It's not originally from the Llangollen Railway, but it's just there visiting, and I've seen it a few years ago in East Lancs, so I just wanted to get a picture of it at Llangollen. And I went down to this little closed off housing area where you can look over the wall into the yard, and there was a few steamers waiting to be rebuilt. It's either they're waiting to be rebuilt or they're going for scrap. I don't know. Probably the first, thankfully. By the time I got back to my auntie and uncle, they had got ice cream, so that was very nice, because again it was a very hot day. And then we went for a walk along the canal. I got some pictures of ducks because I take pictures of anything, not just railways. The 17th of August was my first day of my yearly trip. Every year I have done a trip, whether it's 4 days or it's 9 days. It's never really gone any more than that, but I always take some time out of August to go on a trip. I used to do it with my dad, but then things happened, so now I do it on my own, so it's a lot shorter, less hotels. I believe this started at 4:44 AM, where I got the train to Chester, switched for a train to Crewe, caught a 3:50 to Tamworth, then I caught a Voyager down to Bristol Temple Meads. My plan was to go to London Paddington from there, but it was £4 to do a HST to Cardiff, and I was like, £4, yes please, that's my budget. So I got a HST to Cardiff. I saw there was a 769 path out. It peaked out of the depot, and I was like, oh, it's gonna run. This is such great timing. Then it went back in the depot and the path got cancelled. From there I got an IET to London Paddington. It's such a great route. I've not really done the Great Western Main Line. I've only done Paddington to Didcot and back.
So we've done the race up here. We're going to the science museum.
passing a shed just outside of Doncaster. 66094 if I remember correctly. Once I got into Paddington, I went straight for Waterloo because I needed to get down to Portsmouth. So I walked through Hyde Park, got the nice pictures of squirrels and I think a couple swans before I got down to Buckingham Palace. It's always this walk which really tires me out. I had been up since 4 and I think I did that part when it was around 3 PM, so I had been up for most of the day and I was tired because I'd been walking everywhere. No, from Buckingham Palace I went past Big Ben. Still can't really see much, it's all still wrapped up. And then I got to Waterloo, where I had a McDonald's, which was my first meal of the day because bloody hungry. Then I caught a unit down to Eastleigh. I believe I walked over to the Works just because LSL had the HSTs at the time. Well, they still do, but they look a bit different than what they did. And I wanted to get pictures, which I did. They also had some couple 73s dotted around. As I was about to leave, I saw on RTT that 59003 was coming past. And I hadn't seen that in a couple of years. I believe the last time I saw it was on GBRF 2016 tour. So I did wait, I got a couple shots. Then headed over to the station again and chilled there for a long time. I did have a Wetherspoons as well because it's literally just across the road from the station, which was very nice. At the time it was the eat out to help out, so I think I had like a burger and a pint for £4, which was mad. While I was waiting, because I didn't book a hotel for this night, so the latest I could arrive into Portsmouth Harbour was about midnight, and I had to then wait until 6 AM for my boat across to the Isle of Wight for the next day. So I wanted to waste as much time in Eastleigh because there's a lot more freight in Eastleigh than there is in Portsmouth. While I was waiting, I randomly met a mate called Tim. I knew he was in the area, but I didn't realise he was going to literally be on the train, which was arriving while I was messaging on Snapchat, which was very strange, because he just got off the train and I was literally, okay, there's no point messaging because he's bloody right there. he seems to stalk me sometimes. After several hours, had several sheds, I had 66094 again, the one I passed just outside Discot. But this time it was on my return working through Eastleigh, so there was an unexpected 59 as well. I always miss this path because it doesn't show up as Eastleigh. It shows up like Eastleigh East Yard, so it just weaves its way from Chandler's Ford, that line. It doesn't go through the station, but it goes through the yard and down to Botley. And that caught me by surprise again. Second time that's happened. Second time I've been in Eastleigh and been caught surprised by 59. After a couple more sheds, I finally got my way down to Portsmouth and Southsea. Ticked that station off because never been there before. Waited about 10 minutes for the last train into Portsmouth Harbour. I had originally hoped that I could stay on the station and just, lie down and sleep, but they closed. So I ended up sitting by a statue for like half an hour. About 1 AM I got up, keep myself warm, do a bit of exercise, and then for the next 4.5 hours I was moving from bench to bench because I didn't want to get robbed, because I did have like a massive rucksack and another bag with my camera and my equipment, and if I got robbed I would be stuck. So I was literally just moving from bench to bench all around Portsmouth before I got back to the station around 5, half 5, and they opened the doors. So I went in there, had a bloody good nap, set an alarm on my phone so I would wake up at 6 because my boat was at 6:30ish. Day 18 may I add, because no sleep, it just all blends into one. I finally got the boat across to the Isle of Wight. Never been there before. I was so excited because boats seem like trips, holiday, and I wanted to get the 483s which are going. Well, at the time they were going, at the current point in time they've basically gone because they both broke. Well, the two remain working, one broke. I got over about 6:45, got a 483 over to Esplanade from Pierhead, got my ticket and buggered off down to Ryde, and then I was ticking each station off one by one before I went to a couple of different spots to get pictures. What are my hands bloody doing? I'll just say the stations and then there'll be a picture inserted of each one. Ryde Pierhead, Ryde Esplanade, Ryde St John Street, Smallbrook Junction, Brading, Sandown, Lake, and Shanklin. Before this trip I wouldn't have been able to do that because never been, didn't really know the line. Now I've got quite a lot of miles on it for just a one-day trip. So going back a bit, when I originally went to Ryde, I had walked down to the prom because I wanted to have a look. The weird thing was I saw a couple Alpha travel coaches, which is something I see literally just 15-minute walk down there, so it was quite strange that we'd both come from the same place. I walked back to the station, popped into a shop, had a couple of flapjacks because I love flapjacks and they're cheap. Couldn't afford massive meals because cheap is the way. At Smallbrook Junction, it's a station which is only accessible by train. So you can't get there walking, you can't get there by car, there's no footbridges off. You get there by train or by train. You've either got the Island line or you've got the Preserved line, which is right next door. I'd only bought a ticket to be on the Island line because I wasn't really fussed about the steamers. But I still needed to tick off Smallbrook Junction, so I had to get off my 483, went over, got a couple steamers in and out before I could finally leave. The thing I loved about these was how bumpy it was. You literally just, I'll demonstrate you. Normal train, 483s. I loved it. trying to keep still between Brading and Sandown. You can't. You just flying about. You watch all the old people, holding on and tight because it's. So after doing 100 miles, yes, 100 miles, just one day, and 100 miles, I got the boat back across. And then caught a 444, I believe, over to Bedhampton where I booked an Airbnb. This was like the only bed I had booked for this whole trip. I met a lady called Becky. She was lovely. She had 2 dogs. Great. She told me where the co-op was, so I went, got a couple of bits, and then came back, had some food, did some editing, and went to bed. The 19th of August, I had like 10-11 hours of sleep, which was great. The night before, I had messaged my mate Josh, who lives in the area, and I was like, "You want to meet up?" And he was like, "Yeah, go on then." So we met up. I said goodbye to Becky because she was heading off to her parents. So I had the place to myself and sort of chilled until I finally had to get ready, walk down to the station, caught a 313 into Portsmouth and Southsea, then caught a unit down to Eastleigh where I met Josh in the Rochester area. When we got down to Eastleigh, we were pissing it down, literally just pissing it. We had seen there was a path into Eastleigh Works and it allocated a pair of 73s, which was quite strange because why? So while we were waiting on platform 3, the same 59 pass going the other way. Then about 5 minutes later, a pair of 73s came the other way. So because there was an hour wait until the 73s came back, this time it was a light engine, well, more of a convoy, because there was 3 of them this time instead of 2 originally. To pass the time we had a spoons. But we should do this eat out to help out more often because already bargain food for more bargain prices is great by me. So once we got the 73s returning, which was a nice sight because I don't really see 73s in GBIF that often. We also got a 70 going through and then walked over to Eastleigh Works because more pictures of the HSTs before they got repainted into Midland Pullman. Josh had told me that there was 701s coming back from their testing around the network. There's two ways into the yard. You've got the way we were at, and you've got the way all the way around, which completely bypasses us. So we were hoping that would come our way, but it turned out the first one went all the way around. So video was non-existent, didn't happen. And then my pictures, it was all right because I had a long lens, but wasn't what I wanted. So then to be on the safe side for the second path, we actually went to the station and got some clear shots. I had actually already done that shot a couple of years ago when the 707s were on test, so 707, 701. Because it was still sort of pissing it down, we headed back. We got off at Rochester and Josh showed me roughly where the castle was before we parted ways, bid our farewells, and I went off to the castle, which was still open for some reason. You know, you'd expect a castle to be on high alert, you know, defences, you know, moats full, everything. They had built a bridge over the moat. What do you want being invaded? You know, the door's wide open. You don't catch that here. You have to pay to get into our castles in Wales. So as angry as could be, I walked back to the station. I wasn't angry. It was a really nice castle. Got some nice shots. I walked back to the station, got a unit back into Portsmouth and Southsea, got a shot of the 444s, piggies, in the yard, and then caught my 313 back to Bedhampton, where I literally went to bed again. 20th of August, day 4 of my trip. This was a 4 AM start, again, as is day 1. Don't do it on very little sleep, don't even try it. This is me talking to future me who's going to watch this back. Don't. So I packed all my things, did all my bedding, so when Becky came back it'll be tidy. Left my key, locked the door, walked down to the station and caught my train from Bedhampton to Vauxhall, where I had a bit of time, so I did a bit of spotting. Got some nice shots of the 465/455s coming in. Got a couple shots of some 450s and 444s speeding through. I think I got like one shot of 707, but it wasn't very good because I was on the wrong platform. When I had to, I went on the tube over to King's Cross, where I caught a 91, which was very nice. A few weeks prior, I'd seen that LNER were doing a sale because they wanted passengers back on their trains. Weird concept that, isn't it? A TOC wanting passengers on their trains. I originally planned to go up to Newcastle. I believe it would have been 30 quid there back because of the sale. But there was a steamer around the York area, so I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just stay in York. Again, missed opportunity to go to Scotland. But going to York was only 20 quid, so I did that. And I picked the 91 going north instead of the IET. Just because 91s on the Edinburghs end up anything north of York were ending, which I still got it to York, so or didn't really. I guess the platform was different than what it is now. Once I arrived, I had a bit of waiting. I found a nice waiting room, had a vending machine, had a plug. That's all I need. I literally sat there for most of the bloody day. When I wasn't out walking or getting a shot of a train, I was just sat there on my phone. The steamer was on a tour. It had come down light engine from the National War Museum and had gone into Holgate Yard. The 37 and 33, which was on the Spark Express, pulled it into the siding, left, went into the sidings that were next to the station, Then after about 20 minutes the steamer brought it into the station where I got a couple shots. But all I'm going to say is, steam, veg, are scum. Not all of them, just a lot of them. They'll see you filming, and then they'll just come right into your shot. I'll insert a couple clips. So after the steamer had passed, there was nothing, not really any freight, so I went for a walk. I've not really been for a walk around York, it's weird. I've been to York, but I normally just go to the NRM, but that was, I think it was like reservation only or something, which was weird. Never seen that before. So I bailed and went for a walk down the river, then over the bridge and into what was like an old cathedral or something. I don't really remember what they're called, but there was like this bird show going on, which is quite nice. I paid about £4 and held an owl on the arm. Quite scared that it was going to bite my head off, but I like owls, they're quite cool. The hawk they had hadn't been fed, so they were going to do a show where, they feed it, do a few tricks, and you had the two people come out of the crowd, do that sort of stuff with their arms, and the bird would fly through. It didn't want to cooperate. They did that and it just went straight under their arms. The show did come to an abrupt halt when the bird flew into a tree and attacked a pigeon. Weren't expecting that. He called for the bird and then it just didn't appear. And then a pigeon just fell out of a tree. I then left, went for more of a walk around the town, got a couple of shots of the river. I walked back to the station because there was more freight. To be exact, you had the bellman sheds going through. I only really see them when it's on the bellman tour, but usually had them going through. I believe it was from Doncaster to somewhere. Then you had a DB shed coming through. You had a DB tug going the other way. And then I went to a Wetherspoons because I ticked one off in February back on the South Pennines Day Ranger. But now I've ticked the other one off on this day. I then went back to the station and just wasted a lot of time because I think I had several hours. Because I'd got the return steamer. And then I had like 3 hours to wait. I kind of wish I didn't because I got bored of York. And I did wish I went to Edinburgh, but I didn't. I went to York. My IET finally arrived. I fell asleep on the train because I'd again been up all day. Got into King's Cross, walked over to Euston and got the shot of the 92 because they normally have one just stapled for the Caledonian Sleeper, which had left like 15 minutes before, which leads us over to August 21. Day 5, my last day. After getting the 92, I walked over to Mackey's and ordered a vanilla milkshake. I remember this because that was all I ordered, yet I waited 15 minutes. They had known my milkshake, put it down. The lady who was serving thought that I had ordered something else, so was waiting. 15 minutes later I was like, "Have you got my milkshake?" And she's like, "Oh, that's all you ordered?" I was like, yes, it bloody is. And then she handed it over. That's why I remember I ordered a vanilla milkshake. I walked down to Nelson's Column. I believe I arrived like half midnight. Again, I didn't have a hotel. I had a choice of a hotel, but I instead chose to spend that money on a trip down to Brighton. Yes, I have just gone from Portsmouth to York to Brighton instead of doing Portsmouth, Brighton, York, but more miles, isn't it? So as I said, I got to Nelson's Column around half midnight. I think I sat there until 1:30 before I left. I saw a guy on a roller skates fall over. Didn't want to get stabbed, so I didn't laugh. Once I left, I did a very slow walk because I had to get to Blackfriars. My train was at like 6 AM again. I think I got to Blackfriars like 2:30 and just hugged all my things and used it as a pillow. So if anyone did try to rob me, they would wake me up because I'm hugging all my stuff. I'm literally on top of it. This killed me. I really hated it. I do not enjoy doing 2 all-nighters in 5 days. So around 6 AM my Brighton train finally arrived. I got on it, but I was still so tired that I was asleep for the whole journey. I got to Brighton, woke up, was like, this doesn't look like Brighton. Went back to sleep. Woke up again. This still doesn't look like Brighton. Why are we still at the same station? Went back to sleep. Woke up. Shit, this is Brighton. As the train was leaving, going back into London. Completely missed Brighton. So instead of going up to Hayward Heath and going back, I just went to Hayward Heath, got the next train, which was a Gatwood Express 387, up to East Croydon, quarter 700, up to St Pancras, where I met a lovely VP 185 HST. Remember what I said back in March, how I thought it would be my last VP 185 haulage? Today was. No, it wasn't. I thought this was my last one again, but I've had more. So as I wrote down, I had VP 185 Goodness up to Leicester, where I stayed for a bit, had a couple sets. Had an Angel set right after me. I kind of wish I went on that one instead, because I've never been on a Buffett HST. It'll be exactly the same, but never had any for haulage. Got the Tomato HST, or the Ferrari HST. It's a HST which was de-vinyled from LNER, so it's completely red, and someone stuck a Ferrari logo on the front, so it's either people call it the Tomato HST or the Ferrari HST. But it used to be vinyled up as the National Railway Museum power car. I then got a 170 down to Nuneaton, and got a couple shots of the Avanti Pendos going past. I noticed something was stuck in the OHLE on the line going down to London, the fast line, and then like all the trains were diverted slowly through platform 5, which were going to London, and then they were going like 10 miles per hour going up north. I eventually caught a 350 up to Crewe, where I met my friend Ellen. Strangely enough, she was going down to London, and I'd just come from there. But we had a nice chat in Crewe. Nice to see her. Hadn't seen her in ages. She told me that she was getting the train from home, and it was weird because I was like, but rail replacement between Crewe and Chester, because that was still going on. And she was like, oh no, this train's going all the way. So I looked on RTT. It's going via Northwich. I'd never done that line before. You want to get to really do this Sandbach and Northwich line if you're on a test train, if you're on freight, if you're on rail tour, or if you're on diverts, which this Avanti service was. So I waited several hours, which thankfully meant I could get a 97 and a 56. This was after I said goodbye to Ellen and helped her because there was delays, obviously because of the catenary system down at Nuneaton. So I got her on the right train and bid farewell before waiting for the Avanti back down to Colwyn Bay. And that was the end of my holiday, which was long, tiring. I regret a lot of it, but I'm glad I did it. Very much enjoyed it. August 28th, I had my first day of work experience at a hotel. I applied a couple of weeks before, I heard back, did an interview, and then the 28th was my first day. And then on the 31st of August, I met up with my mate John again, and we went down to do more air hockey and bowling. We then ticked off a spoons in Ruthin. We did try a restaurant a bit closer to Will, but it was all like reservation only and we didn't, so we just went to Spoons. Again, it was eat out to help out, so I think I ordered £40 worth of food for about 15 quid. I ordered a lot. I ordered 3 sides, 2 mains and a dessert. I finished everything apart from a burger, which I then put in my bag to take home to finish because I'm not going to waste food. We then went down to Geronimo's, did some mini golf, and I won, of course. Before he took me to the station and we bid farewell again. I'm very good at bidding farewell to people. And that concludes a very, very, very long August. September 4th, I ate a sandwich and chipped my tooth. That was a great way to start September. September 5th, after about over a year of watching Jacksep's Life, I bought this hoodie, which I love, and I wear nearly every single day because it is a great hoodie. It's currently got a hole in it now, but I'm gonna get it fixed and I might buy a couple more. September 12th was my trip to Scarborough. Back in August I had seen that there was meant to be a HST going up to Scarborough, so I booked tickets. only to find out that the service was cancelled from Sheffield, so I ended up having to change my plans at the last second. I got to Crewe and met my mate Jamie, and he was going to do the HSD down to Skegness, which was the final day of it. So I was like, you know what, I'll bloody join. So seeing as the HSD didn't run to Scarborough, I had originally made a plan to over to Derby, train to Sheffield, train to Leeds, train to Scarborough, but that didn't work out because I've now changed and I'm going to Skegness. So while at Crewe, I booked my tickets from Nottingham to Skegness, and off I went. By the time we got into Derby, we waited about 10-15 minutes until the VP185 set arrived. The Jolly Fisherman's what the service is called, and it was the final day of HSD's operating it because it's a summer extra service. The morning set was VP185's. Service afterwards was going to be MTU's, the ex-LNER sets. Seeing as this service didn't offer first class, the first class seats were declassified, so that's where I sat. We got to Nottingham and then got told to get off the train because it had failed. So I filmed the set heading back out to Derby, which was a shame. I was conflicted because I didn't know if I should then just bail on Skegness and just go up to Scarborough, because all I needed to do was get a train to Grantham and then get a train to York and then switch there. But I was like, you know what, HST is in it. So I waited an hour in Nottingham and then got the MTU set to Skegness, where I had a 4-minute turnaround because I bailed on it, got a 156 back to Grantham to then get a 91 set up to Leeds. I would have liked to get the HST set back to Grantham, but it didn't go, it went straight to Nottingham unfortunately, so I did have to bail. At Leeds I got a shot of the 91 and also a shot of the Grand Central 180, which was on hire to Northern because they were doing the Hebden Bridge service for some reason, so that was weird seeing a 180 on hire to Northern. I then got my Voyager to York where I had to turn round, so I got as close to York, but the Transpennine services to Scarborough were terrible. I got there and it was like an hour wait until the next Scarborough train, and by the time I got there I only had half an hour before I had to start going home, so I got my 68 set back down to Leeds, switched to a Voyager to Tamworth, got a 350 up to Crewe, and then went home. On the 13th of September, my Logo Billionaire video hit 11,000 views. Many years ago, me and my dad made a video on playing a board game called Logo Billionaire, and then I uploaded it and it's kind of skyrocketed compared to all the other videos. It was the first one to hit 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, now it's at 11,000, and I found out why. People don't know how to play the game, so they Google how to play Logo Billionaire, my video pops up, they watch it, and then they know nothing because me and my dad didn't even bloody play it correctly. There was a whole time where I just privated it because I didn't want it public, but now I'm just like, you know, it's funny. It kind of just trolls people because they want to know how to play, but then me and my dad don't even know how to play ourselves. The 22nd of September, we had the 950 do its yearly visit. On the 25th of September, I had found out that there was a rail tour with a 90 going from Euston to Glasgow up north, and that for some reason on the empty coaching stock they'd shoved a 40 on it. So I made a plan to go and get it. My original plan was to get the train down to Tamworth, see the 40 going through, then get a 350 down to Nuneaton, get a 170 over and do an EMDR on HSTs. But the empty coaching stock was quite late, so I had to then catch the train to Nuneaton, where I got the empty coaching stock there. It wasn't what I had planned, because instead of getting the empty coaching stock going straight through, they stopped, so the video was kind of crap. The reason they'd stopped because there was a 47 rail tour. The empty coaching stock was in 5, the rail tour was in 6. The rail tour needed some staff from the empty coaching stock, so they both had to stop and wait. It was nice seeing the 47s, but I wish that the empty coaching stock wasn't late so I could have gotten through Tamworth because it would have been a lot of a better shot. So once they had both left, a 170 over to Leicester, where I got another VP 185 set up to Nottingham. Back to what I said in March, how I thought it was my final VP 185 set. This one was, because I don't believe I got them again after the 25th of September. So it was 43047 up to Nottingham and 43045 back down to Leicester. Where I then had to catch a 170 over to Nuneaton to get the 90 on the tour again. Once it had passed, going a lot slower than I had planned, I caught a 170 back over to Leicester to continue going up to Nottingham and back down to Leicester on HSTs. I got quite a few trips in before I had to start heading home, so I got my final HST up to Derby via Nottingham, where I caught a 170 over to Tamworth, and then a Pendo to Crewe to finally head home. The 28th of September, the Conwy Valley finally reopened. It's not been doing well, it's been closed for most of the time in the past year and a bit due to flooding and works and upgrades. But today it finally reopened and it was kind of a big deal. So I headed down to Blaina. While I was buying my tickets, I had seen that some news folk were there and they asked to interview me, which I was like, go on then. I don't have any of the clips, I never actually saw the clips online. I think they were only shown on TV and I don't have a TV, so. But it was done by BBC Wales and ITV Wales, which was quite odd. So I took 150 down to Blaina and then got it back up to Junction, where I had to get a road replacement back home. I met up with my mate John and we went down to Blaina again and back to Llandudno before I went home. The 29th of September. This hoodie got me into a Jack Sucks at Life video. So I was just watching the video and I wasn't expecting to be in it. I know I had uploaded it on the Reddit, but I wasn't expecting to actually be in it, so I was quite pleased. I'll insert a clip from Jack's video.
Got myself the hoodie, affiliate link used of course, very comfortable, might get another. Go on mate, get another, get 10, get 20.
Moving on to October. I was a bit annoyed at myself because I hadn't been going out to get the IHTT, and seeing as that's the only sort of freight we get down the northwest coast anymore, I wished to make an effort, and I did go out for it. I got it in the morning going through Wine Crossing. The sun was terrible. I keep forgetting that in the morning the sun is shining right down onto the lens, but as the kids say, we move. I found out from a friend Ryan that Network Rail had done a bit of clearing on the cutting between Junction and Conway, so I ended up getting it on the return there. On the 20th of October, I returned to the same clearing for the return of the RHTT, but got it on the other side, because that's now a shot you can do, because before they had cut everything down, it was just full of trees and bushes and crap. Seeing as I had a bus ticket, I headed up to Rhyl. I met up with my friend David at the Rochester Railway, and then John just randomly appeared again. He seems to stalk me from time to time. I don't understand why. Please leave me alone. I'm joking. On the 23rd of October, I got the RHTT again. Had messaged my friend a couple of days earlier about a location in Penn where you can get a good shot, but then it was overgrown. So I ended up walking to the old quarry. There's a road bridge over to the quarry where I got it passing there. Quite a nice shot. I probably should do it again because I've never been there before. And then I got the bus all the way down to Coral Bay for the return. On the 31st of October I carved my pumpkin. My pumpkins all look the bloody same. Every year I do the same design because I don't have fancy knives to cut smaller things. It's always just whole triangle eyes done. And for the past 2 years I've forgotten to buy candles. I've just shoved my phone in it, got a picture, that's it. But this year I handed the pumpkin over to my auntie, who made pumpkin soup, which was actually really nice. Never had it before, but very good. Moving swiftly to November. November 2nd, I got the bus to Prestatyn, then got the train to Shotton, met up with my friend James, and then we both fled the country to to go to Casey Lane to see the LSL HSTs on test. It was very nice seeing VP185 HSTs on the West Coast main line. Once they had headed back into the depot, there's not much to do in Crewe, so we went to a couple of depots. We went to Gresty Bridge, and we went to the Grey Rig Pendo, which is the Pendo which crashed at Grey Rig many years ago. There's only 2 coaches left, and they're at the Avanti Training Centre in Crewe. We also went back to Casey Lane to get a pair of 720s on test for Greater Anglia, which was nice. We then headed up to Sandbat, where we had a spoon, so I ticked another one off. That turned out to be spoons number 34. November 4th was a bit of a scary day because it was the election. At the start, it was quite red, and I was like, unless something happened, Trump's got this in the bag. That something did happen, as we all know now. Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia and Pennsylvania all turned blue. 7th of November, Biden was projected the winner. Fuck you, Trump. On the 15th of November, I met up with John again. We went for a drive around the Orne. It was very, very, very windy. We ended up going for a spoons in Llandudno. Already ticked that one off many years ago. Before we went to Conway and just walked around the castle walls and a bit through the town. 18th of November, I turned 21. I had a lovely breakfast at Anna's Tea Room in Conway. If you're ever in the area, go. It's great. I love it. I had French toast and syrup while my auntie and uncle had a full Welsh breakfast. My uncle and I dropped my auntie off at work before we headed down to the Cambrian coast to tick off some stations, because I'd originally planned to go bash HSTs, but then England got locked down. I then planned to go to Llangollen, but they were closed. So then the only thing I could really do was just tick stations off. I ticked off Minffordd, Penrhyn Dairy Drive, Llanfecwyn, Talsanai, Tŷgwyn, Harlech, Llanbedr, Pensan and Llandanwg. Every year I try and do something special for when I officially turn 21, because I get reminded every year that I turn 21 at 3:04 PM. So I ended up just standing in a telephone box. I had to wait there 4 minutes. At 3:04 PM on the 18th of November 1999, I was being born. 21 years later, I'm standing inside a telephone box in Llanbedr. Life is exciting. After taking off Llandanwg, we headed back up to Harlech just to see the castle, because we didn't say it properly the first time round. Some of these place names I might not say correctly, even though I am Welsh. I don't really know how to pronounce every single place in Wales because it's difficult. We then headed back up to Porthmadog, had a bit of a Tesco break. I rushed over to see a 158. And we went home, and that was my 21st birthday. I'm 21 now. Great. On the 20th of November, I got a scratch card in a birthday card a few days before, and I won £5, so that was quite nice. The 21st of November, I met up with John. I had known about a random Class 103 in a field for the past 3 years, and a couple of weeks back I had figured out where it was. So I got John to go and take me. We hopped a fence, went up to it, got pictures, went back in the car, and that was it. So I was very excited, very pleased, because it's been 3 years of planning and researching and trying to find out. It's been there since like 2003. It came down from the Shackleton Railway full of asbestos, and it's kind of just sat there ever since. It's had a bit of work on it to remove the asbestos and repaints, but I don't know what's going to happen with it in the future. Because I'm Celeb was on, we headed down to Pensan to get a couple of shots of the 158 with cattle in the background. And then we went to do some bowling and pool. On the 23rd of November, I got some gen that there was a 97 on the RHTT, so I trekked down to Holyhead to find out there wasn't. We just had a single 56. The 97 was probably taken off in Shrewsbury, but the good thing was I'd never been at Holyhead for the RHTT, so I was able to get it done. And seeing as it was only a single 56, I got the run round. Which I'd only ever seen when the 66s were on RHGT. Which concludes November. Moving on to December. December 2nd, England had just come out of lockdown. They were in lockdown for all of November. So with all my plans effectively going out the window and having to stay in Wales for an entire month, I messaged my mate John and was like, do you want to go out for a drive somewhere in England? So that's what we did. Even though we were meeting in Real, I had to take the bus to Penn, where somehow I ended up getting the RHGT, which was very late. I then got the train to Real from there. I believe I had a pair of 158s, which was quite nice because I hadn't been on the railways for nearly a month. Once I got to Real, I met my mate John and we drove over to Stone. We were going to go to the Wetherspoons until we realised that we were in Tier 3, so we had a quick look at the Christmas decorations and buggered off. We ended up in Market Drayton and had a Wetherspoons there, that being Wetherspoons number 35. Once we were done with the food, we went to look at the Christmas tree and then got back in the car and went home. December 3rd, AEW were holding their show Winter is Coming. I tuned in because there was, a big surprise and I wasn't sure what was going to go and happen. Well, that big surprise was bloody Sting showing up. Mind blown. That was the last thing I was expecting. The last person I was expecting. But I'm so bloody happy it happened. That was a great way to start the year with Edge returning, and a great way to end it with Sting returning. Then later on in the night, Don Callis helped Kenny Omega screw over Jon Moxley to win the AEW Championship. And then they ran off and said they were going to Impact. So once I had slept and woke up again, I went off to see the 37, which had come down the night before. It's the yearly test run where one night it comes down from Crewe to Llandudno, then to Bangor, and then the next night it goes Bangor to Blaenau, and then back off to wherever. So because the Conway Valley had basically been shut the entire year, and the year prior, I decided to head down the valley. One thing I always forget about the valley is how unreliable services are. The train's fine, but Lou Jones buses don't rely on them. So I made it in plenty of time for the 37s. I ended up getting a pair of 153s down to Tallacavan. I'd originally planned for Dolgarrog, but two 153s do not fit on the platform, so that was caped. So I ended up just going to Tallacavan instead. Once it had passed, I had planned to go and get the bus. So the Lou Jones 19 back to Llandudno. I had about half an hour walk, got there, waited half an hour, bus just didn't show. Waited an extra 10 minutes, bus didn't show. Walked back down to the train station, missed the train. So now I'm just in the middle of nowhere, with no train for another 2-3 hours, and no bus for who bloody knows. And I've got about a 2-3 hour walk ahead of me to get back down to civilization. I was walking that way anyway, so I was like, why not stick a thumb out and see what happens. After 20-30 minutes, someone actually pulled over, which was very nice of them, because they didn't have to, because COVID's a thing. But I wore my mask, I was, sat in the back, had a chat. They dropped me off in Llandudno, where I was able to catch the train to Junction, where again I randomly got the RHTT. I then caught a Voyager to Real, where I met John, and we went to the arcade and ended up meeting David as well. We did some bowling and did some air hockey, and then headed back over to the railway to get the 37 on the return and the RHTT on the return. The nice thing was I'd actually bumped into an old friend. I never actually met him, but I've known of him, I've known him online for quite a while, and we finally, said hello, got some pictures, and then buggered off, as you do. John and I then dropped David off at home and went to Llandudno via McDonald's because we were hungry, and then we went and did some air hockey on the pier. The 5th of December, I found out it was the final RHTT of the year, so I decided to make an effort. I got the bus down to Dwygyfylchi, almost missed I'd set up my tripod and my camcorder to film it going past, but then the SD card didn't want to register, so I didn't end up getting a film of it going down to Holyhead, but I got some pictures thankfully, so it wasn't a complete waste. I then headed home for about half an hour before I had to catch the bus down to Junction to get it on the return. They ended up just stopping in platform 3 to let the 150 off Bliner arrive into the station. So I ended up getting full flash out of the station from the pair of grids, so that was top notch. December 6th, I got me Switch out of the cupboard. It's been there for the past year and a bit, and I got addicted to Rocket League and Fortnite because I'm poor and I can only afford the free games. December 11th, the month prior I had planned to do an East Midlands Day Ranger and also get the Midland Pullman on its debut, but seeing as England had gone into lockdown at the time, the tour got cancelled and I ended up having to cancel my whole trip. So instead, I did it in December. I booked a weekend, asked my mate if he could join, he said yes, John again. We went down to Kettering because Leicestershire was in tier 3 so we couldn't stay there, but Kettering was in tier 2 so it was fine. The plan originally was for the Friday, we'd just get some pictures. Saturday we get the Midland Pullman and do an EMDR. Sunday, chill. Monday, go home. But that didn't happen fully. The main problem was the VP185s and the Buffett sets ended on the Friday, so they ended up on the day we went down, which was a massive pain because the whole plan was to go bash them on the bloody Saturday. So we basically figured this out on the way down, and by the time we got to Kettering, we'd missed most of the runnings, so we just chilled in the hotel for a bit before we headed over to the station. We caught a Meridian up to Corby, and then the same Meridian back to Kettering, before waiting for the Buffett set to take us back up to Corby. Half an hour layover, got our 66 going through, and then we got last second plan, we ended up getting the Buffett set back all the way down to St Pancras. When I say last second, I mean we were on the train, we had tickets to Kettering, and at Kettering we're like, let's take this to London instead because it's the final one. The power cars were 43480 and 43484. We arrived into platform 3 at St Pancras, and surprisingly on platform 4 was the VP185 set. So we got that leaving. Behind that was a 737 Eurostar, which was very surprising because I thought they'd all gone. So seeing we'd only been in St Pancras for about 10 minutes, we'd got the Buffett set, the VB185 and a 373, so it was all quite worthwhile. John wanted to go to Starbucks, but I don't like Starbucks, so I ended up going to King's Cross and got a 91, which was, again, surprising, because we only had a half an hour gap and I already got everything that I would have wanted to see anyway. So I rushed back to St Pancras, got on the Buffett set, and took the HST all the way back down to Leicester. We got it leaving. And then caught a Meridian to Kettering, and then went to the hotel for the first night. December 12th. Originally I was going to do about a 7 AM start and walk over to the station to get the Midland Pullman on the way down to St Pancras, but I overslept. What had happened during the night was someone was smoking in their room, and the whole place's fire alarm went off. We were all told to leave. Fire brigade came out, literally 2 fire engines came out for no reason, because someone was smoking in their room. So that's mainly why I overslept, because we didn't get to sleep until like 2:30, 3 AM. So I woke up at 8 AM, about an hour late, walked down to the station, got there about 8:50, 10-minute wait for a Meridian, and caught it all the way up to Loughborough. I then had a decision to make. Do I get the Midland Pullman from the station, or from the road bridge a bit behind? I'd never done the road bridge, and seeing as there was other veg on the platform, I thought, you know what, I'll bugger off up to the road bridge. You had an empty HST pass and then another one going down to London, so it's quite nice just hearing the engines roar past. The Midland Pullman passed us about 10 minutes late, and boy was it going. It's always lovely to hear a VP 185 just flying past you. Because it was 10 minutes late, I did have to rush back to the station to catch my train, which ended up being 158810. I caught it back down to Leicester. I was originally going to meet John here because he didn't want to do an early start, so I let him sleep in. But then he just didn't show up. He went and did his own thing. So while I was waiting in Leicester, I went over to LIP, got some pictures of the former EMR HSTs just sitting in the siding. Some were going to the 125 group, some were DATs, a couple were COLAS. So it was nice seeing them get a new lease of life. There was also a couple 56s, 37s, 58s. There's everything in that depot. But the one nice thing to see was 47847, which I haven't seen in another 3 years. I used to see it very regularly at Crewe Diesel Depot. I ended up running back to the station to catch a HST up to Nottingham, where I then waited and caught the set back down to Leicester. I caught a Meridian up to Derby. I realised I had about half an hour wait to go back down to Leicester, so I walked over to Derby RTC, got an 08, got 67s, 57s, 37s, 97s, the 950, and then proceeded to walk back to Derby station, got a couple of pictures of the buses on the way past, and caught Meridian back down to Leicester. I got 66 720, the nice colourful GBRF shed, and then once that had passed, the Midland Pullman came through again, which was again lovely to see, going a lot slower, so seeing as the light I was able to get a decent shot. For the amount of veg which were there, none of them really got in my way, and I was very pleased for that, because steam veg, as you would have seen before, they just don't care. But thankfully, no one got in the way. Everyone was, very polite and just all just standing in a nice orderly line. I then got another HST up to Nottingham, got a 156 over to Beeston, take that station off, got a 156 back to Nottingham, then got the same HST set back down to Leicester. I then got another HST up to Nottingham, where I got a 156 over to Derby, to then catch one of the last trains of the day back to Kettering. I waited about 10-15 minutes and then caught the Midland Pullman again on the empty coaching stop up to Crewe. We almost got bowled. Almost. I don't like it when it's that close. I was almost so upset, but thankfully the Meridian pulled enough forward that we were able to see the Midland Pullman again. John had showed up to get the Midland Pullman flying through. He was thankfully in front of the Meridian, so didn't get bowled either. And we headed back to the hotel where we had a booze fair. I then had a lovely Christmas meal and a lovely Christmas dessert, all for a lovely Christmas price. December 13th. This was John's idea of the plan. He decided, let's drive over to Cambridge and do a Greater Anglia plus Day Ranger, which I've never done before. And I was like, let's do it. So we got to Cambridge. I got a couple of shots of the H-vans outside. I love H-vans. Anything old, anything vehicular, I love. We got our tickets and got a 755 over to Norwich, where we got another 755 up to Sheringham. I got off at Cromer to get a picture of the signal box. Then got back on the train to go to Sheringham to get a picture of the signal box again. And then got the train back down to Norwich. We then got a 745 over to Ipswich, where I got a picture of the 86s in the yard, which I was very pleased to see. We then waited a bit, got another 755 over to Lowestoft. I had a Wetherspoons in a 15-minute gap. I went in, ordered lemonade, got my lemonade, down the lemonade, left, and then caught the train back up to Ipswich to then catch a 745 over to Norwich. We then had a bit of a wait before we caught a 156 over to Ely. I got a couple shots of the track machines before catching a 170 back to Cambridge, where I got a shot of the 317s in the sidings, and we jumped back in the car and drove back to the hotel. December 14th started off with the Wetherspoons. I ticked the Kettering one off before we drove home, and that was the end of the trip. When I got home, I'd realised I'd hit 6 million views on Flickr. That was a million in under a year, because I hit 5 million in January and then 6 million in December. I was very pleased with that. Don't know when I'm going to hit 7 million. On the 17th of December, I met up with my friend Ellen, and we went for a walk around Llandudno. Then we had some food in Debenhams. Rest in peace, because they're closing down. She got me a box of celebrations for Christmas. I got her a card. I didn't realise we were getting gifts. If I knew I would have got her something. I kind of feel bad now. September 19th, around 6 PM, it was announced that at midnight we were going into Tier 4 lockdown. The 20th of December, I was saying goodbye to my Christmas plans and making different arrangements of what I was going to do. Because we are in Tier 4, we can do fuck all now. I met up with my auntie and uncle and we exchanged gifts. I went back to theirs and we all had some food and chilled a bit before I went back home. December 21st was TLC. The main few matches from that was Drew and AJ. That was a lovely match. I really enjoyed that. It was Drew coming out on top, as I guessed, but The Miz came in and cashed the Money in the Bank contract and failed and kind of helped AJ fail. So later in the night we had Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens put in one hell of a bloody fight, but as I guessed again, Roman Reigns came out on top because he's the head of the table, so why would he not come out on top? Because that match was so good, I didn't realise that there was one more match, so I actually turned it off until I realised, once I woke up, I didn't watch Randy versus Bray, which was the actual main event. I was so happy with Owens versus Reigns that I was like, you know what, that's fine by me. And I missed another great match. Randy set Bray on fire. That was one hell of a bloody visual. And I missed it, because I forgot it was a thing. But I watched it later, so it was all good. Later in the day, my friend Ellen came round and gave me some homemade cakes, so that was lovely. Keep my spirit up, being a Tier 4. On the 23rd of December, I visited my auntie and uncle because my Christmas plans had cancelled. I was meant to go and be with my friends, but I ended up going with my auntie and uncle. 25th of December, Christmas! We made it to Christmas. We didn't die. 2020 is still a thing, but the world hasn't exploded, so we made it. I normally wait until midnight to then wish everyone a Merry Christmas, but this time my uncle and auntie were at mass, so I was just alone, just listening Prisoner by Miley Cyrus and Dua Lipa over and over and over and over. because I didn't feel Christmassy. I just wanted normal music. Because I didn't have an abundance of gifts, because when you get older you don't really, I decided to limit myself. I had 3 boxes, one from my mum, one from my grandparents in France and uncle, and then another from the friends I was going to meet, which got cancelled. The main thing my mum got me was a Switch, but the thing is she already got me a Switch a couple of years ago, so I had 2 Switches, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. This second one, she told me about it, to tell me just to sell it because she got it somehow. It had the back stand, it didn't have one of the rubber things over the Joy-Con thing, it didn't have a box, didn't really come with anything. Somehow, in the past 2 years, I lost the back stand, but because that other one had it, I was able to just switch it over and fix mine. When I was looking that over, I didn't realise there was actually a game in it. I had charged it, turned it all on, seen all the games, but I thought they were just online games. But one of them wasn't. Animal Crossing. It's a game I wanted back in March in the original lockdown, but it was expensive. It still is expensive, so I didn't get it. But now I got it for free. And boy have I been hooked, because a couple of my friends got it, so I've been playing with them since. Mainly my friend in France called Camille, just building our bloody islands. She's ahead of me. I'm trying to catch up, but she's progressing quite far ahead of me. My uncle mainly got me a lot of food because he knew that I hadn't been shopping this month, so he gave me a whole box of food, so my fridge is full, freezer's full, cupboard's full, so very nice of him. And then my friends got me a couple of Doctor Who t-shirts. Last year I was with my friends and they'd noticed that one of my Doctor Who t-shirts had a massive bloody hole in it. So this year they got me a replacement. On the 26th of December I sold the second Switch. Late into the night on the 25th my friend Chloe messaged me because she'd seen that I actually had 2 Switches now, and she told me that hers had broken. She'd basically cracked the entire screen. Not a good idea. So I basically told her that it didn't have the rubber part, it didn't have the kickstand because I needed that part, and that there was a few scratches, and she was fine with it because she didn't really use it like this. She uses it on her TV, so it didn't really bother her. Because she was out of the country, I met up with her brother on the morning of the 26th and handed it over. You know, anything to help a friend, I don't mind. A normal tradition is to do a Boxing Day walk. Last year I was with my friends and we went round Blockley, which was a quite nice place. This year my auntie and uncle wanted to go for a walk somewhere in Llandudno. I told them about the well in Llanrose, so we were like, yeah, let's go there, that sounds interesting. Until they were like, no, it's muddy. And then bailed on me, so I went on my own. It was actually like a 3-minute bloody walk. I'll put a picture on screen and I'll read it out for you. The well, which stands 3 metres to your right, is known as St Mary's Well. It was the principal source of water locally until mains connection in 1908. It is fed through the surrounding limestone catchment area and always remains level. Indeed, it might have been used for thousands of years, and the area you are standing on is part of a path that may have been used to cross the north part of Wales. Wells have been long considered to be special places, probably because they provide clean, healthy water. In Wales alone there are more than 400 wells with saints' names. This well probably owes its name to the monks who were given the land in 1350. Their patron saint was St Mary. The well might have been lost were it not for the action of local resident Kent Davies and Brindley Bomber Thomas, who rediscovered it during work following the floods of 1993. So it was quite interesting. I had always wanted to pop down. I didn't realise it was only a 3-minute walk down the little footpath. But every time I walked a junction and back, I'd always pass it and I was always interested. So once I got back, my aunt and uncle still wanted to walk because they didn't join me on mine. So we ended up going to Conway and went for a walk around there instead. On the 27th of December, John Huber died. I woke up to the news and I was devastated. At first I thought it was a storyline or a sick joke until I continued looking through Facebook and seeing all the other posts and comments, and it really hit me because I wasn't expecting it. For those who don't know, he was known as Brody Lee in AEW and Luke Harper in WWE. Many months ago he won the TNT Championship against Cody in a bloody amazing match where he just destroyed Cody. And then a couple months ago Cody returned and beat him in a strap match. I'm not sure how he got injured, but he had a leg injury and was out. I was expecting a return at some point and I was so hyped, and this news just came out of left field and it hit me hard. I don't know why, but I can relate things into stuff which has happened in my life. Plus, with all of the struggles he had been through with WWE and getting his release last year, to finally get his break this year and then this to happen, and then his children, his wife, and what they must be going through, and just how unexpected it was. At first I really didn't want to believe it. Like I said, I thought it was just something about a storyline or a sick joke, but it wasn't. I then saw the post that Bray Wyatt put on Instagram, one that Braun Strowman put it, the one that Eric Redbeard, also known as Eric Rowan, put, the one his wife wrote, John Silver, Anna Jay. Honestly devastated. Like right now, trying to hold back tears. To say the least, it was a difficult day. And seeing as I didn't really know him, I only knew him on the TV, I can't imagine what his family and friends are going through right now. Rest in peace, Brody. Thankfully, I only have one other thing to say after I got home later that day and ended up breaking my mirror accidentally. I opened the door, heard a bang, and the mirror had fallen, and then I had loads of glass shards over the floor. Fucking amazing. I wasn't expecting to end this video this way. I'm ending the video on the 27th because I need a couple of days to finish editing and upload it and have it all sorted. I'm not sure if I'm going to make another one next year. I would like to. This is currently taking me a month to record, edit and watch back. It's taken a while. Hopefully if I do it next year, I'll give myself enough time rather than literally the last month in the year. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Like, favourite, subscribe, and peace out. It's Sunday. You know what that means. Rest in peace, Brody.